Alright guys, so what we're looking at today is solving rational equations. We're looking back at it. We'll break it up into two sections. We'll do 5 problems today and 5 problems tomorrow. So, let's get started. So we went over this the first time, and whenever we solve these rational equations, we want we want to really get rid of fractions, because if I don't have any fractions to deal with in any part of the equation, then it's a little bit easier to deal with. So when I look at this here, well, the 3/4, if I'm looking at the 3/4, this here, I really want the 4 in the denominator to cancel, which is going to make it a little bit easier to solve. So, in order to get the 4 to cancel out of 3/4, well, I can multiply this by 4, because the 4 and 4 would cancel. And if we look at the other side, the 6 over 3x minus 1, well, if I multiply this by 3x minus 1, well, the 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1 would cancel, the denominators would cancel. So for the right side, I need 4, and for the left side, I need 3x minus 1. So if I multiply both of them, because I can't just multiply one side by one thing and the other side by something else, we've got to multiply everything by the same thing. So if I multiply both sides by 4 times 3x minus 1, the denominators would simplify. They would simplify out. So on top of this one here on the left, I would have 4 times 6 times 3x minus 1 over 3x minus 1 equals. On the right side here, we would have 3 times 4 times 3x minus 1 all over 4. And again, we did this because we wanted these fractions to simplify. Well, here the 4 and 4 would cancel. And here the 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1 would cancel. And that's the reason why we did this. That's the reason why we multiplied these together. And what we have now is 4 times 6 is equal to 3 times 3x minus 1. 3x minus 1. Because everything else simplified out. We don't have any fractions left. We just have an equation. So now we can multiply through and we can simplify this down. Well, the first thing we have is 4 times 6. And 4 times 6 would be 24 is equal to. Well, now we need to distribute the 3 across these two here. And when we distribute the 3 times 3x would be 9x minus 3 times negative 1 would be minus 3. So we get 24 is equal to 9x minus 3. Now at this point here, we do need to get the variable by itself so we can solve for the value of x, and that's what we're doing this whole thing for. So the first thing we can do is add 3 to both sides. And we add 3 to both sides. Well, negative 3 plus 3 will cancel. And 24 plus 3 would be 27 is equal to 9x. And last but not least, to solve for the value of x, we're going to divide both sides by 9 so that we get x by itself. And when we divide both sides by 9, we get x is equal to 3. And that's it. That's all we have to do for this here. And that's our answer. Now, if we wanted to look at see what our restrictions would be, that would be coming from this here. And that'd really be telling us that x cannot equal 1/3. That'd be our restriction, which we don't have to worry about for this year. It's just x equals 3. Okay, let's look at another one here. Now this one here, 5 over x is equal to 7 over x minus 4. So we have this problem here, and we can look and see what our restrictions would be first, because we did that last on the other one and had a tendency to do that last, but we can do that first. And if we want to see what our restrictions are, x cannot be. Well, for this first one here, 5 over x, well, x cannot be 0 because 5 over 0, that will not work. We would have 0 in the denominator. And our other one here, x minus 4, well, the value of x cannot be 4 because 4 minus 4 would be 0. So for this here, our two restrictions would be 0 and negative 4. So if we, or not negative 4, 4. So if we get 0 or 4, it would not work. That would not be a solution. Now we need to solve. We want to solve for the value of x. That would make these two here equal. Now to find that, well, we need these fractions to simplify out, because if I didn't have fractions, it would be a little bit easier to work with. Now on the left-hand side, the 5 over x, well, if I multiply this by x, well, the x over x would cancel. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So this is just x. Now to get the x minus 4 on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side to cancel out, well, we would multiply by an x minus 4. And again, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And so when we do this here, we do this multiplication, we're going to get 5, let's see here, times x, come on, times x minus 4 all over x is equal to, well, we have 7 times x times x minus 4 all over x minus 4. Because I'm just going to go on and rewrite it out. We don't have to rewrite it out, but it's something we can do here. And at this point here, we can simplify out what's in common. Well, the x and x would cancel out because they're like terms on top and bottom, not like terms. But they're on top and bottom, and we can simplify it out because we are multiplying. The x minus 4 and x minus 4 would cancel. And what that would leave us with is 5 times x minus 4 is equal to 7 times x, or 7x. Because once we simplify that out, we don't have any fractions on the left or right side of this equation. And we're left with 5 times x minus 4 is equal to 7x. And what we can do at this point is solve for the value of x. And the first thing we can do is we can distribute the 5. Well, 5 times x would be 5x. And 5 times negative 4 would be negative 20 is equal to 7x. And again, we need to solve for the value of x, so it's going to be helpful to get x's all on the same side of the equal sign. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. And when I subtract 5x from both sides, 5x minus 5x would cancel. So we'd still have negative 20 is equal to 7x minus 5x would be 2x. And last but not least, when we divide both sides by 2, because again we need to get x by itself, when I divide both sides by 2, we'll get x is equal to negative 10. Because negative 20 divided by 2 would be negative 10. And this here would be our answer, and because it's not one of our restrictions, that's all we have to do for this here. All right, So we're going to look at this one here. So again, we're doing the same thing, and if you notice, we're almost multiplying the denominators. So an x plus 7 and an x plus 1, so we're going to multiply both sides by this. We're multiplying both denominators by both of these terms here. And we can go on and see that x plus 7 here and this x plus 7 would cancel. And here the x plus 1 and the x plus 1 would cancel. Now when we do that there, let's see what's left over. Well, I would have the x plus 3 times the x plus 7 on one side is equal to 15 times x plus 1. And that's left. And it makes it a little bit easier to solve because we don't have fractions anymore. We just have an equation, and most likely it's going to be a quadratic equation. And we can go on and solve this here. And we solve this here, the first thing we'll need to do is to distribute the x. So we'll have to do x times x, which will give us x squared. And then x times 7, which will be plus 7x. And then we can do the next one. 3 times x will be plus 3x. And 3 times 7 is going to be plus 21. So we can distribute those two out. We can multiply them out. We can do the similar thing over here. We can distribute this 15. And 15 times x is going to be 15x. 15x. And 15 times 1 is going to be plus 15. So we get this here, and I know it's not the best handwriting I have. But we have this here. So we distributed through, we multiplied everything through. Now at this point here, we can combine some like terms on the right-hand side, left-hand side. The 7x and 3x. And if we do that, we'll get x squared plus 7x plus 3x would be 10x plus 21 is equal to 15x plus 15. Now because we have a quadratic, we have a term with x squared, we've got to get everything on the same side. Now we only really get everything on the same side is if we have a quadratic. And we have that here. So we'll need to move everything over to one side. So the first thing I'll move is the 15x. And I can move it by subtracting it from both sides. So we can subtract 15x from both sides because 10x or 15x minus 15x will cancel. And what that'll give us is x squared, not plus, because 10x minus 15x would be negative 5x plus 21 is equal to 15. Now we've almost got everything on the same side. We've got one more thing we need to move. And that would be the 15. So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. If we do that, the 15 and 15 here would cancel, giving us x squared minus 5x plus, because negative 20 or 21 minus 15 would be positive 6. Is equal to 0. So once we moved everything over, we got x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. And this here will factor. So we can write this as two sets of parentheses equals 0. So we can factor this here. Now if we remember our factoring, because the 6 is positive, our signs are the same, and they match the sign of the middle term, which will be negative and negative. Now the factors of x squared are going to be x and x. And now we need to find the factors of 6 that would work together for this here. We have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And we need to do 2 and 3. And if we check this here to make sure we got the right terms, x times negative 3 would be negative 3x. Negative 2 times x would be negative 2x. And negative 3x minus 2x is negative 5x, which is exactly what we wanted. So these here are the factors of x squared minus 5x plus 6. And because we have two things multiplied together that equal 0, it means that one of them has to equal 0. So either x minus 2 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. One of them has to be 0. So at this point here, to solve for the value of x, well, here we can add 2 to both sides. And if we add 2 to both sides, we get x is equal to 2. And we could do the same thing over here. We can add 3 to both sides, again, to get x equals x by itself. These will cancel just like 2, negative 2 plus 2 would cancel. And here we would get x is equal to 3. So our two answers for this here, we have x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 3. Now again, like I've been doing before, I forgot to look at the restrictions. Well, our restrictions for this here, x cannot equal. So x plus 1, well, x cannot be negative 1, because negative 1 plus 1 would be 0. And here with x plus 7, x cannot be negative 7, because negative 7 plus 7 would give us 0. So negative 1 and negative 7, well, neither one of those restrictions are in our answers. So the solution for this here is x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 3. And that's it. That's all we have to do for this here. And that's all we're going to do here today. So for your attendance, you do have a one question problem you need to answer. And if you have not finished any of the other assignments, so the two assignments from last week, those two worksheets I put online, as well as any of the assignments from Big Ideas Math, you need to get working on those here, or get working on those and get those turned in. The ones that you did last week on paper, you can hold on to those and turn those in when we see each other next week.